our live interviews podcast. In today's episode, we'll be chatting with Ben Wolff. Ben is co-founder and developer of Onera, a luxury treehouse resort in Texas Hill Country. His experiential hospitality firm, Oasi, develops and manages a portfolio of landscape resorts, boutique hotels, and luxury retreats. Prior to Onera, Ben grew Blink Hospitality, a short-term rental management company, from 8 to 200 units under management in less than 2 years. Quite the achievement. McKinsey and NYU Stern alumni. Welcome, Ben, to Founders and Builders, Rollercoaster Journeys, episode 11. And delighted to have our first hospitality and real estate entrepreneur on our podcast.
Thanks, Christian. Good to be here.
Fantastic. So, as you know, we have our podcast is broken down into three parts. First of all, we're going to break the ice. Then we're going to do a deep dive, and then Q&A if there are any, and then an out. So, kicking it off, breaking the ice. I would like to know, what are you drinking today?
Oh, same as how I'm pretty much starting every morning these days. I got my Celsius here,
Okay.
it's a couple 100 milligrams of caffeine, kick my day off right. And it's low calorie as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I used to drink espresso, and I do find the Celsius has much more of a sort of a steady energy boost for me, and less of the sort of peaks and valleys. So I'm a big proponent, and water always doubling up too.
Water.
Yeah.
Classic. Awesome. Awesome. All right. That's good enough for me. So let's go back in time. Background, childhood dreams. What did you want to be? Fireman, policeman, pirate? Tell us about the childhood dreams and early careers, how you got to, I guess, quick journey to how you got to the hospitality side of things.
Yeah. So I'm told by my parents, I don't even really remember this, but that I wanted to be a paleontologist. I was pretty obsessed with dinosaurs.
Wow.
So a pretty niche profession there that decided against pretty early on. There was a point when I wanted to be an architect. I actually had a project I remember in like fourth grade that was designing. I think it was like designing my mom's dream house, actually. And I designed this whole,
that's pretty cool.
and I used this kind of like CAD-esque software, but more for a young kid trying to figure it out. And yeah, that was a super cool experience. Really, I've always been interested in spaces and sort of bringing them to life, and had some interest in real estate and design early on. But I will say that kind of got put on the back burner, and I decided that I was going to go into business. I saw my dad successful in the business world. His company that he was COO for got acquired, and our lifestyle dramatically changed when I was an early teenager. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Maybe I should do this as well. And yeah, he always talked to me about private equity and consulting, and sort of interesting career paths. I ended up going the consulting route and working at McKinsey for a little bit, but pretty early on, I knew that I actually wanted to start something myself and do something entrepreneurial. When I, late high school into early college was kind of the heyday of some of the young tech entrepreneurs that were blowing up, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook was like right around the time I was going to college. Obviously Amazon, Jeff Bezos was getting really big. Apple was continuing to blow up. So, I was interested in that world, but was not a coder, was not a software developer.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Didn't have a whole lot of interest in it, honestly. And it's funny because I was interested in the tech world. And I actually did a independent study my senior year of college at NYU that was non-tech founders in tech. And at the time, I come to find out it was pretty much a unicorn, the non-tech founder in tech that didn't start as a developer. And usually it was somebody that was like roommates with, the software developer, or had a very or a very specific domain expertise, or like could raise, had very entrenched, VC relationships to raise the capital. There was something very specific that made it worthwhile to partner with that person, or they were just kind of in the right place, right time, with the sort of engineering brains. And so I tried to launch a couple things when I was in college, and didn't really go anywhere. So I ended up, I went to McKinsey after school, and kind of cut my business chops there, learned a bit about, modeling and PowerPoint and advisory, multiple industries. And, from there, I tried a couple businesses that failed effectively. And then around 2015, I found myself, back into real estate, and sort of getting pushed into this new burgeoning short-term rental world. So started picking up some properties that we were renting on Airbnb in New York City before there was like a big crackdown in New York City on Airbnb. So we were making good money doing that, and that's kind of the start of my journey. I mean, I can keep going, but that's kind of from childhood, college, into when I started getting into real estate.
Okay, awesome. Another question for you: leisure. Any hobbies or leisure activities that allow you to find yourself or recalibrate, especially now?
Yeah, extraordinarily busy right now in the middle of a capital raise for our next project. So big one for me is definitely golf. I picked it back up again in my late 20s. My dad was a really big golfer. He played a little bit in college. He was scratch in high in high school. Played in the New York Amateur. So he taught me when I was really young, but didn't really get into it until my late 20s, close to 30, really. But yeah, I'm hooked now. It's sort of, playing the top 100 courses. I've probably played about half of them already in the past, 6,
Okay.
7 years. So I do a lot of golf trips with my friends and my dad. And these days it's been a lot of driving range, because playing a 4-hour round of golf is a pretty big time commitment. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do a lot of driving range, been working on the swing, can just go and, hit balls for half hour in the middle of the day to help almost split up my work day, and give me, it feels like 2 days in one. Because I've been
Okay.
on the merry-go-round of, working 12 to 14-hour days nonstop. And my productivity at least just falls off a cliff after a while. And I find that I'm more productive and get to have a reset and have a little fun by going to the range or getting a workout in or something like that in the middle of the day.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll come back to that, the breakdown of how you structure your days. And then last question in the breaking the ice, family life. What does that look like, and how do you manage your family life with your entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah, so it's definitely a challenge. The where I find myself, and where I want to be as an entrepreneur, and trying to be, the innovator in the hospitality space, and bring some amazing things to the world, and to the modern traveler. It's a lot of work. It's not a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out. I'm off. And I really try to not take baggage from work, positive or negative, home, but it's not always easy, right? I do the best I can. Try to stay off my phone, right, when I'm with family, and be present. I have a 3-year-old right now, and so he is a bundle of joy, ton of energy. He's getting to that age where he, wants to play tag and hide and seek, and roughhouse a little bit. So we can have those moments after the workday on the weekends. And what I've done, and this gets a little bit into schedule again, but I have to keep moving my day up earlier and earlier, especially when I'm jammed with work. So, I go to bed sometimes earlier when he goes to bed, because he's not the best about going to bed. He likes to try to stay up as long as possible. And my wife's more of a night owl. So when she's putting him to bed, sometimes bedtime goes from 8 to 8:30 to 9 to 10, and I'm already asleep. But yeah, I try to go to bed early so I can
Wow.
get started on the workday early. Get, right now, close to 12 hours in, and then be home by 6:30, so I can get a couple hours with them. before
Okay.
before he goes to bed.
Okay. Awesome. So, time to do a bit of a deep dive. So, deep dive, um, daily routines. I think it's really interesting to have a look at how each founder and builder and entrepreneur stacks their day and organizes their day. So yeah, I'd love to know what it looks like for someone who's in the experiential real estate and hospitality business.
Yeah. For me right now, I think stacked is definitely the operative word. My schedule is pretty jammed these days. Thankfully, with by and large all very high value activities, I've really, I think, gotten to a point
Okay.
where I have a really strong team, and overseeing ops and finance and legal, things like that. Only take up maybe about 10% of my time, and the vast majority of my
Yeah.
time is growing the business, marketing, media opportunities like this to get exposure and grow our audience. Talking to my leadership team in terms of strategy and where they need help, or strategy assistance, brainstorming, whatever, to push the ball forward. So yeah, working on very high value activities. I have an amazing construction team, so they might they make my job easy and very sort of efficient and streamlined when it comes to our developments. So I go on site, I do site visits once a week. It takes up, an entire morning to check on all of our projects and have our meetings, do the site tours, work through issues. And we get there, crack of dawn. I'm out of my house by 6, and we start meeting at 7. And
Awesome.
yeah, it's very, very, very efficient. We do those on Wednesdays, but yeah, typically in terms of daily routine, I'm up these days by 5 a.m., 5:30 latest, sometimes earlier. Been trying to push it, even earlier than 5, just because there's a lot to do right now with the capital raise and our new Oasi Hill Country project we're getting off the ground. So yeah, that's been the start. I have a time block usually that actually this is in the beginning of each day that I have in my calendar as top goal, and it's trying to tackle
Okay.
the highest priority, potentially most challenging task and task that requires you know, the most of my focus and brain power. I
Okay.
try to knock it out first, when I have, my Celsius, and I'm fully fresh in the morning. So that's how I start, and then it gets hot in Texas. Not It's really nice
Okay.
right now, but pretty soon it's going to be getting hot, and I live in Austin.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, so I usually break my day. I'll go hit balls or work out at 9, 10 a.m. usually, after I've gotten
That's nice.
three or 4 hours of work in already. Come back, and then usually have a little bit more work to do, and then my day just goes fully into calls. So my call calendar opens up, whether that's for potential investors, podcasts, interviews, potential partners, people we want to bring on the team. All of that is going to usually happen from 12:30 to 5:30 or 6.
Okay. Okay. So it's quite interesting how you break up your day. And actually, the interesting part is like breaking it up like what everyone would call mid morning, 10 o'clock. You
Yeah.
go and do your physical activity, your outdoor stuff, what the stuff that allows you to recalibrate. That's quite interesting. I find myself like that early morning, um, high value work time is probably one of the best for myself. It's 5 till 7. Then 7 till 8 is sort of breakfast time, family time. Just getting the day ready. Then 8 o'clock, that phone just like starts ringing, and then it doesn't stop. Um, and it can get so busy. I've had to actually cut up my week where Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'll take calls and meetings. Tuesdays and Thursdays not at all, not at all. So I can work on the business without being disturbed, because when there's a lot going on, I find that the calls distract the meetings, etc., and you're not working on. You're just getting involved. So I find
Yeah.
that really interesting. But for me, the lunch break, I'm a big foodie. So lunch is when we'll have lunch and then go for a long walk, and then be back by 2 o'clock and then knock out the rest of the day. So yeah,
Nice.
no, it's interesting. I think I'd like to actually try that mid-morning walk, because once you're seated, you tend to forget, and you get engrossed in what you're doing. And there's some guys who said like it's every hour you should get up and do and move around. But then I guess for you it's a little bit different because you're out and about, you're going to site visits, etc. So there's quite a lot of moving around. So
Yeah.
about that, how do you
Mhm.
get around? Do you drive yourself, or do you have a chauffeur or a taxi or an Uber to get you to the different locations to maximize your time?
I got my Tesla Model 3, and whenever I'm going on a drive, I got a stack of calls that I'm going through, and I
Okay.
rip through those calls while I'm on the road. So no chauffeur as of yet, but I get a lot of work done in the car. A lot of my job
Okay.
is talking to people, keeping them inspired, working through problems. Trying to come up with solutions, promoting the business, right? Talking to potential investors,
Interesting.
selling. So it's a lot of me talking, and I can do that on the road. So
Okay. How many? Because you mentioned earlier on you go to do site visits. How many sites have you got ongoing at the moment, or is it just one big site, your current mega project?
so it's two or three depending on how you look at it. So we have Onera Wimberley, that is our 28 unit treehouse hotel in Wimberley, Texas. That's hillside, amazing west facing hill country views. And
Mhm.
that one is the farthest along in terms of construction at this point, and is opening by the end of this summer. Then we have
Okay.
Onera Fredericksburg, which is the original landscape treehouse hotel we built and sold to the public REIT. Got some acclaim around that, and it's one of the highest performing, if not the highest performing property in the Texas Hill Country, with you know $500 to $600 ADRs depending on the unit, and occupancies in the mid to high 80s, if not even low 90s for some of our
Awesome.
units.
Wow.
So yeah, it's the performance there is if you really look at it, it's better than the vast majority of 5-star hotels, right? I mean, our revenue that we're generating and income per key is more than like one hotel South Beach, right? It's
Wow.
pretty wild.
So
So
did you
yeah.
anticipate this in terms of the success that it has been when you were at project stage before it actually kicked off? Were you expecting these numbers, or were you a lot more conservative and say like, we're going to make sure that we at least hit these yeah, these goals, and that it actually exceeded your expectations? How did that happen?
So we hit our high case. I always believed in our high case, but we wanted to go conservatively to investors and banks and all the rest. So yeah,
Mhm.
we ended up hitting the high case, which is amazing. I think that the area that I've grown to be much more conservative is more on the cost side. Right, my first project went over budget. I'll never do that again. I have a
Okay.
GC that is extraordinary now when it comes to being on time and on budget. We actually had you know, extensive buyout savings on our latest project. So we had, you know, close to $1 million that we were able to reallocate to areas that we thought could use additional value add. So, that was pretty exciting. But yeah, just to, getting back to the sites, Onera Fredericksburg, we're also expanding it. So we're going from 11 to 34 keys. That's under construction right now to open in early to mid 2025. So, I'm out there every so often as well. And then we have our new property, which is on this majestic road called Ghost Dancer over by Devil's Backbone, which is a famous scenic drive in Central Texas. And that is the Oasi Hill Country project that we're getting off the ground now. So I'm going there, meeting with my GC who helps us with entitlements and community relations and feasibility and everything from the very beginning of a project. So I'm out there with him. I'm out there with potential partners. I was just out there with Isaac French from Live Oak Lake a day or two ago, touring him on the property, and we've been talking about partnering on one thing or another for a while. So yeah, I try to knock all that out on Wednesdays. So usually, so I really try and time block, right? So I'm in my car and bouncing around that one, hopefully just morning. Sometimes it extends into the afternoon, but just on Wednesdays. And then all the other days, I'm mostly in the office. So I'm not running around because I have such a great team, and allows me to knock out that focused work in the morning for 3-4 hours before I go. And actually even more, it's like I get like 4 to 5 hours of uninterrupted really good work done before I go and hit golf balls or work out. So it's almost like a mini work day there, and then get another whatever 6 to 7 hours afterwards, which the bulk of the time afterwards is calls.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Really interesting. So in terms of the builds and where they're at, so you're opening up in autumn, one of your projects. So how do you go about that? Have you got a soft opening or a big opening? How is that working out? What's the plan?
All of the
If
above.
everything goes according
Lots,
to plan.
yeah, all of the above. Lots of openings. So certainly we'll do
Okay.
soft opening, friends and family, right? Just kind of working out the kinks, throwing value to people that have helped us and supported us along the way. We do that. We work with influencers. So doing a big, social media influencer and creator push, both during soft and hard opening, or grand opening,
Okay.
whatever you want to call it. So grand opening likely to be around Labor Day, or right after that. We might be able to move that up earlier, but that's kind of our hard deadline for grand opening. Certainly plan to have some
Okay.
units up and running before then, to host influencers and get the word out and build up our social media presence for the Onera Wimberley property. And we're already doing some of that now. Like I've toured some influencers even during construction, and we share a lot of our progress and what's going on. The idea is to build a fan base all along the way, and we're doing that even more so with Oasi Hill Country. Like I plan to start from the very beginning with that property, sharing the journey and really building a robust fan base years before we open. So
Okay.
the one other thing that we plan to do during soft opening, in addition to influencers in the travel space and who are driving guests, I want to do a summit of experiential hospitality leaders and innovators. So been talking a lot about doing that, and likely to do that this summer. So it'll be hot, but we have a nice pool. We got private soaking tubs at each unit. So whoever's willing to brave the Texas heat, we'll have out for that summit.
Okay. That sounds good. You work with private concierges, I'm supposing. I think you've got my email
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
We'll reach out when we have a better sense for when we can do that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, for anybody who's listening, and even post podcast, like if you're an influencer and really appreciate, the experiential travel, don't hesitate and reach out to Ben. We'll have the contact details at the end, for you to pick up on and get in touch. So, with that in mind, the future. What are you looking forward to? What are your concerns, if any? And I guess the challenges, difficult times faced. I'll wrap that all into one.
Yeah. So at Oasi, we're designing and operating hotels built for the modern traveler. That's what we do. And what the modern traveler wants is they want experience. They want an inspiring stay that wows them, right? It's not just heads in beds, the same old
No.
box, regardless of where you are. Um, Modern traveler is seeking intimacy and seclusion, right? As opposed to, a butler-like staff experience. Our experience with the modern traveler is they want a seamless check-in experience. They want this amazing unit, and they want, everything they need at their fingertips, but they don't need a clunky, check-in experience within a lobby. They don't want housekeeping knocking on their door every day. So we really try to lean into the privacy and intimacy piece of it, because what people are just yearning for is the ability to reconnect with themselves, with their loved ones, and also have a connection to the property where they're staying at, either through origin story of the property or through the founder journey, we try to connect with our guests. And the big thing that we're like laser focused on at this point is creating what we call shareable experiences. So we want the experience of our landscape hotels or boutique hotels to be so amazing that our guests are compelled to share them. Like they can't go, it's like autonomic that they have to share this experience with their friends and family and network. And that creates virality, right? So we're really
Yes.
building, we are now building with shareability and virality in mind. And that was somewhat of an afterthought when we first started, but now it's a core focus. So that's kind of what we do and where we're going. And the world of hospitality and the hotel world is changing. There hasn't been much innovation in, call it, I mean, the last 50 years. What's the biggest innovation in hotels? It's probably like loyalty rewards points. And you know, and
That's true.
Airbnb, right? Sort of when
Yeah,
it comes to stays and short-term rentals, and that was more of a platform and democratizing the ability to get into hospitality, right? You could get a home or two and be in the hospitality business instead of having to buy or build a hotel, which is very capitally intensive. So, you know, I believe the world of hospitality development is changing. A lot of these, you know, rentalpreneurs, right, Airbnb hosts that have amassed portfolios and done well, are getting into hotels now. So they're bringing this
yeah.
fresh, innovative approach, like I was describing, that
Boutique.
caters to the modern traveler. You know, non-flagged, independent, lifestyle, experience focused to hotels. And there's such a insatiable demand for that kind of hotel product
There is.
and such limited supply today. So I really do
There
believe
is.
that this $1.2 trillion travel industry that we have, you know, 10% of global GDP, is going to get entirely upended in the next, you know, 10, 20 years. And we want to be at the forefront of that, inspiring the change, leading the change, pushing the envelope. And that's extraordinarily exciting, right? I think it's the most exciting
It
opportunity
is.
in real estate in my lifetime, probably, right? You could say like the '08 crash,
It
buying
is.
then, buying at the bottom. That's exciting. But I mean, this in terms of innovation and change, you know, there's nothing I can think of that we've seen like it in real estate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm from hospitality, and I've been watching what's been going on, from having worked in hospitality as well as then moving on the other side and promoting and marketing boutique experiences. So the likes of Relais et Chateaux, which is has got amazing properties, but there's a lot of it that's old and aging and not always ideal. They do have amazing little independent, so really independent properties, part of the Relais et Chateaux group, that are amazing as well. But there needs to be a hell of a lot more disruption. But then we've got people like Habitat and Wolverdan's collection in Namibia, who are also, at the forefront of that experiential hospitality. And I guess a lot of the safari camps, luxury tented safari camps, were a little bit in that forefront, I guess, doing a little bit what you're doing, but you've taken it on a whole new level, because they're all there. They don't know how to use social media. You're leveraging social media to the next level, and you're absolutely right to do so. It's all about sharing the experiences, and the fact that social media makes it a lot easier for us to do today. When we go on holiday, we want to tell people about it, but how does one go about it? Well, the influencers brought that to the forefront and said, well, this is where I'm at, this is what it's all about. And that's fueled, I guess, the desire, the insatiable desire to go and experience things around the world. So I really love it. And one of the things that I admire with what you're doing is you're building in public. Now, if you look at anybody else in this space, they're all, uh, the Four Seasons. You don't know about the Four Season construction only on when the deal was signed or they've raised, and when they open. In between, nobody knows what's going on, and then all of a sudden it's open, and it's out in the public, and then we've got the influx of the influencers. but what you're doing is building in public and sharing your journey. I think that's awesome. And also, I hope it's going to inspire more hoteliers or real estate, experiential, I guess, hospitality people to come to the forefront and say, like, yeah, let's pick up on this movement and move it forward, because it's needed. It's what's demanded and craved for.
Yeah, it already is, right? I mean, we get people all
Yeah.
the time reaching out saying, you're inspiring us to do this, to start with our little landscape resort, maybe a small project, but that's kind of where we all start, right? I mean, Onera was a small project relatively when we started, and now we're doing much bigger projects. So we have an ebook we just launched that's free on how to build a landscape hotel or glamping site, unique stay, whatever you want to call it. So you can check that out. I know we'll talk about socials later, but via my LinkedIn or Twitter, Unique Stays Guy, you can get access to that. And long term, we plan to roll out a mastermind as well. I mean, I I get so much energy and vigor from working with and collaborating with other people in the space that I see as the next generation of hospitality innovators. So we want to work with like a very select group of those folks that we see as sophisticated operators, and not just people with an idea, but people that can actually execute and have a sense of urgency to execute. So we're going to be rolling that out later this year. And something else that you talked about a little bit, I think relates to a philosophy we have around, we want to collaborate with our guests and avoid our hotels and experiences feeling like a transaction. And I think that's something that is new. And, the old world of hospitality, I mean, you have tons of staff, but your experience is, this feels like a transaction, right?
Sub,
I'm
and it's
getting,
subpar as well.
yeah, it's subpar, but it doesn't feel genuine and authentic a lot of the times, and there's not like a warmth and enthusiasm a lot of the time, right? It's kind of
True.
sterile. It's like you're being paid to ask me how my day was. Like, I'd rather not talk to somebody if that's kind of what it's going to feel like, right? And I think our guests feel the same way. And then it's collaborative in terms of how we market and share the property, right? Like, our guests are sharing and marketing Onera, or in the future Oasi, and then they're sharing with other guests, and they're booking with us direct, and we are cutting out the 17% that typically Airbnb or booking.com or some of these other OTAs will take off the top. And we're not actually discounting for direct bookings. I mean, slightly, but not in a meaningful way, 1-2% maybe. And then there's always a payment processing fee, but we're getting 12, 13, sometimes 14% directly to our bottom line, which allows us to create a more amazing experience and spend more on the architecture and design that then add
100%.
value to our guests. And yeah, so it's something that we believe in. Guests seem to love it, and we're going to keep trying to embody that, collaborating with guests rather than just transacting with them.
Okay. Awesome. Challenges. Do you foresee any challenges in the sector, in this niche, whether it's on the development side of things, maybe the tech or other?
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a unique position, given that we do have a bit of a track record. We've done this. We've had an institutional exit. We've raised money. We've had success. So I have the ability to raise equity and debt to build these kind of one of a kind projects at a sizable scale. I know a lot of the people that are trying to get into the space, financing is a massive hurdle. And I think a lot of that comes down to it's a new nascent space. It's cutting edge, and that's viewed as risky. And I think that there needs to be a fundamental shift in education for the capital, that this is actually less risky. What's risky is building the same box that's everywhere around the world and expecting to get outsized
Indeed.
returns. You're investing in a commodity. What would be less risky than that is investing in a one of a kind place that has a sustainable competitive advantage and differentiation, right? That's less risky. That's long-term, value creation. So I think there needs to be a shift when it comes to that. And it's starting to happen. But we need it to accelerate, and not just the equity capital, but the banks as well. Like so many banks that I talk to, like, oh, we only do flagged hotels. Well, that's interesting because,
Right.
we generate much better returns than flagged hotels, and we don't have to pay the
Indeed.
royalty fees, the franchise fees. We don't have to do the pips on their schedule, right? We can do what adds value to our guests at the individual property level, right? It's not like a one size fits all. This is what you have to do to stay, up to our brand standards. We can make strategic decisions at the property level. So I do really hope that will continue to change. And those folks need to get educated and see the success of these experiential hotel properties that are independent, smaller brands, but, brands that guests love.
Okay. So, next question is related to the big project. And if you can maybe give us a short overview of where you're at with that project, what you're looking at in terms of raising, and maybe some timelines on that particular project.
Yeah, happy to. So Oasi Hill Country, and can I share my screen? I don't know if that
Of course,
it,
absolutely.
it's a very
Absolutely.
visual, product that we
Go
have.
for it.
So
Yeah.
let's see here. Okay.
Okay. And then I'm
All
going to
right.
add it to the stage. There we go. Awesome.
Awesome.
I love this video, by the way. I
Oh,
see
thank
it
you.
every
Yeah.
day.
Thanks so much. So this is the Earth Lodge. Actually, I guess we'll get back to that. So event space is what you see there. And then this is one of our pod style units. But this is the main hotel here, the Earth Lodge, built into the landscape, beautiful long range Texas Hill Country views. There's a subterranean spa and gym that's tucked under this waterfall that you see at the end there. Oasi is going to cater more to groups than Onera has in the past. So that's why we have an event
Okay.
space. It's why we're going to have conference rooms on every floor of the Earth Lodge. We'll have F&B, so we'll have a cafe on site, overlooking that natural pool area you were just seeing. So more amenities, more catering towards groups, more of a destination type experience where you don't feel like you need to leave. And that's what we've seen. Even at Onera, where we have very minimal amenities, limited staff, we don't really cater to groups very well at this point at Onera. And we're still seeing guests that come and just end up staying on site for the entirety of their trip, essentially, because they want to hang out in their treehouse and the cedar tub and, experience our pool area and the nature all around them. So we're leaning into that. And this property, it's a 44 to $45 million total build, project, landscape, resort, and wellness retreat, close to Canyon Lake in the Texas Hill Country. And it is 45 keys, event space, F&B, spa, gym, all the resort style amenities that you could want. And it's a compelling investment opportunity. Conservatively, we are projecting 25% IRR, over 3 times multiple on invested capital, over a 7-year term, roughly. And the timeline is we're closing in June on the land, and we're doing our first LP close in, and I can actually show some of this. We're doing our first LP close in mid to late May. We're finalizing our deal docs now. So anybody that's interested, please reach out, and happy to share our PPM and other deal docs with interested investors. And we're doing first close mid to late May, close on the land thereafter. We'll do a year of pre-construction and planning to make sure the project is as successful as possible, comes in on time and on budget. And then we'll start building in roughly June of 25, 18-month build cycle. Conservatively, we try to do it in 15, but we budget for 18. So that would put us at a very start to 2027 opening.
Okay. Awesome. Geez, I have to wait that long to experience this. My
Yes.
goodness.
Well, yeah. What we do, Onera Wimberley is opening up soon, and this is one of our progress videos
Indeed.
that we posted on Instagram recently. So, I mean, we have some amazing properties for folks to check out in the interim.
Okay. No, that's awesome. So anybody needs to know more about this, we'll be sharing Ben's contact details. Also, if you're subscribing to the Fixers newsletter, we have it's all about our partners and the people that we admire and that we work with. And there'll be also information in there so that you can pick it up. And then if you're interested in what Ben does and you land on our website with that information, when you actually click on the contact button, that message is going to go straight to Ben. So just so that everyone knows how it works. Great. So I guess we can move on to the fun facts. We'd like to know, time spent on phone screens for non-work related things.
That's a good question. I feel like whenever I'm on my phone, I'm working in some form or fashion. So probably not a whole lot that's not work related. I think the biggest way that I use my phone outside of work is catching up on sports. So that's another hobby. A couple of sports that I follow pretty closely, and sports commentators, analysts, things like that. Some shows that I like there. So yeah, that's probably mostly how I'm using my phone otherwise, and it's probably an hour a day or less.
Okay. All right. That's rare. Next is an interesting one. How many newsletters are you subscribed to? Do you even know? How many do you read? And which one is the best? That's the one that you wait for whatever the cadence and say, like, I have to read this, and you actually read it.
So man, probably 12 to 15. I don't know for sure the number, but it's probably somewhere in that
Okay.
ballpark. The ones that I subscribe to, I do try to read, because if I'm not reading them, that like I unsubscribe typically, just because I don't need my inbox cluttered up. I'm always trying to get to inbox zero, and that's kind of important to me in my productivity. So in terms of the ones I read, I like this. There's this hospitality newsletter that David Gaston from Breakwater Capital, I think it is, puts out that I like. And it's literally just headlines and links and like a quick one-line description about the hospitality industry. And it just gets me up to speed in like 5 minutes or less, right? Just looking at all these headlines, I click on the ones that are interesting. So that one I like. I subscribe to Isaac French's. He's a buddy of mine that's in this sort of landscape hotel experiential hospitality space. So I read his just because it's like contemporary kind of reading what he's up to, and typically we're very much on the same page, but it's always good to see what he's up to. Hans Laurie has a great design focused newsletter. And I'm interested in design. I'm not like a designer by trade, but I always like to learn. And then the last one, I read Nick Huber's newsletter pretty regularly as well. So he's probably the other one that I read.
Awesome. Really, really nice selection of newsletters, and I think there's two of them that I'm not subscribed to, so I'm definitely going to go and have a look at them. Next question for you is bucket list item to tick off in 2024. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be personal. It can be
Yeah.
bucket list item for this year.
Yep. When I think about bucket list, I don't think about work actually. So it's definitely golf related and not work related. Me and my dad and a few friends are going to Nova Scotia to play at Cabot Cliffs and Cabot Links at Cabot Cape Breton, which is I don't know if it's Dream Golf or the sons of the guy Kaiser who started Dream Golf, but it's one of the most incredible kind of cliffside, oceanfront resort golf courses in the world. So,
Okay, awesome. That's nice to know. So now I know how to bribe you. Get you on a cliff top sea views golf course. I have two in mind for you. So we'll discuss this depending on how many invites I can get to your openings.
You have my interest.
Cool. Next, beach house holiday or mountain cabin getaway?
Mountain cabin for sure. I like lakes and mountains and yeah, I've always been like that. My family had a place in Vermont when I was growing up and love the summers there. You know, I mean, obviously a lot of people go there for skiing in the winter, but love the summers. There's this beautiful reservoir lake that we have up there that has no houses on it because it's actually like I think owned by a utility company. So it's just beautiful, you know, evergreen trees everywhere and you know, flawless lakes set in nature. So yeah, lakes and mountains for sure.
Perfect. Do you rock a hoodie and sneakers or a suit and tie for client or investor meetings?
Neither. I try to live in the middle. This is my standard everyday wear. I take a little bit of a page out of, I guess, you know, Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, all these guys that had very, you know, simple wardrobe. So it minimizes the decisions that I have to make each morning in terms of clothes, because I have enough
Okay.
decisions to make in a day. So yeah, I have these shirts. I love them. They're called Mantra, and I can wear them working out. I can wear them on the golf course. I can wear them to a meeting. I can wear them on a podcast. So I don't have to change. I don't have to think about it. At most, maybe I have to think about the color of the shirt, depending on how hot it's going to be in Texas that day, and how it looks
Okay.
against the black background. But that's about it. So yeah, that's me.
All right. Coffee or tea, and what kind? I.e., Colombian coffee, Kenyan coffee, Earl Grey tea. Which one is it?
So, I mean, again, probably neither, and Celsius is definitely my number
Neither.
one. But
Mhm.
if I am drinking coffee, which I will occasionally, usually I'll go for shaken espresso or like an iced cortado. So minimal milk, but a little bit and on ice.
Awesome. Comedy club night or TED Talk marathon for a fun evening out. What's your pick to unwind?
Comedy club for sure. I feel like I'm in terms of unwinding. Yeah, you know, I think laughter is the best medicine a lot of times. And sometimes I forget that, but when I'm in a bad headspace or have, you know, had a rough work day or whatever, comedy and laughing is usually, like I said, the best medicine. So
Okay, awesome. And the last one in the fun facts: sports. Where would you thrive? Single competitor, double sports, relay team, or team sport?
yeah, I would say single and team sports. I mean, I grew up playing team sports when I was a kid, loved them. You know, was captain of my lacrosse team, was a captain for my football team before I stopped growing and wasn't big enough to play the positions that I had always played. So yeah, I love team sports, love to follow them. Today I do, you know, golf, which is a single competitor sport, which I also love. So highly competitive. My wife and wife's family makes fun of me because I typically always win or try to win at my in-laws like family games and stuff like that. I think I even won the trivia for my in-laws 40 something wedding anniversary. So yeah, I'm pretty competitive, which I think helps in business as well.
Okay, awesome. I guess that brings us to a wrap. I don't know if there are any questions to those who are streaming in, and obviously everyone's streaming in from X because X rocks. But in the meantime, if there are any questions, please drop them in the comments, and if not, we have Ben's contact details on the ticker at the bottom. So on X, as Unique Stays Guy. Really like the handle. Onerahospitality.com and then stayoasi.com. So if you're out there, have any questions, or just write down those contact details and reach out.
And
Anything
we
else you'd like to add?
one quick clarification. So it's stayonera.com,
Ah,
STAYONERA.com. And yeah, stay Oasi.
mhm.
But the best places to reach out to me are on X, Unique Stays Guy. Follow me, you know, shoot me a DM. and LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Ben Wolff, 2 Fs. I should pop right up. So talk to you there.
Okay. All right. Stay on there. Right. Just here we go. And save. Is that correct? Stay on Onera.
That is correct. Yeah, but
.com.
I think you put it in place of the Oasi URL, but all good. No worries.
Yeah.
I think people got that one too.
Awesome. And I guess that takes us to the end of the podcast. Yeah, that was an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, Ben, and definitely rooting for what you're doing. And we'll be following closely, and we'll definitely be staying in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Christian. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Ben, and talk soon.
All done?